This episode of Idle Thumbs is brought to you by Harry's. Harry's manufactures and sends directly to your home razors and all sorts of shaving equipment. Also, they have face wash now. I tried it and it's really nice. If you go to harrys.com and use the promo code THUMBS, you will get $5 off your first order. $5 off. harrys.com. Enter code THUMBS at checkout.
This is Slammer Jammer, Idle Thumbs episode Wednesday the 17th of February.
Was that your intro?
Yeah. Oh, it's not? It wasn't?
Yeah, well, I mean, it could be.
It's Wednesday. How do I wonder if I can do that.
Wednesday.
That was me slipping.
That's dishonored Wednesday.
W-E-apostrophe. It's Wednesday, February 17th, 2016.
Yeah. You nailed it, Jake.
2016.
It is.
This is Idle Thumbs 250. I'm Chris Remo.
Wow, 250.
I know, we did it. We got that new music there that just happened.
I'm Nick Breckon.
I'm Jake Rodkin.
Okay.
I'm here.
We got it.
Welcome to 250, I guess.
Yeah.
I've been playing XCOM 2, which I know you have as well.
Yeah.
I am curious what your further thoughts are about this game. I find this game to be very difficult.
It's extremely difficult.
Yeah.
It's punishingly difficult.
Yes.
It is exactly what we were talking about last week, which is that they clearly made a conscious choice to not reset the both the fiction and the actual difficulty of this, or just the systems and everything. There's no Metroid moment where everything's reset down to zero and now you've got to level everything up again. No, they just, I mean, everything is all your troops
are still level 0, but
well, kind of, yeah. But I mean, on the third mission, you get basically most of the stuff, all the gadgets and stuff that you got in the first game. So
yeah.
it's just they're starting with all that stuff. Deal with it. I don't know. It's really hard. I've gotten maybe, I don't know. I probably have restarted at least 6 or 7 times at this point. Yeah, just because I'm obsessive about having the clean playthrough where all the people that I've taken the time to customize and name don't die in the first mission.
Right.
I think my guy, Nick Breckon, has died consistently on mission 2 every time I try and play this game.
The first time I played the game.
Yeah.
The first time, you know how it gives you best records at the end of a mission? 52% hit ratio.
Yeah.
And if that's the best you've ever done in the game so far, it says new record. The first time I played, my hit record was 100%. And it was new record. I'm well, now
you did it.
Every single other mission in the entire game is going to be worse than
it's
that.
It's a letdown. Yeah.
They're all going to, guys are going to be shittier at their guns.
Yeah.
Oh, guaranteed. I've played twice, and I mean, I've played a number of hours, but 2 games through, or maybe 3, maybe I'm on my 3rd now. And the one that I'm on now, I started on Ironman. I don't know why. It was that.
It's the thing to do, Chris.
Yeah, I know.
Meme.
I started it, and the box was there, and then I just had that stupid, pointless sort of just kernel of shame in my head when I didn't check it. And then I went back and forth and checked it and unchecked it.
You imagined
times.
4 different versions of your face next to those of sort of a crying baby one, and then sort of a smiling one, then a smirking one, and then a glowing eyes.
The doom damage guy.
I think I did imagine faces surrounding me, but they were the sort of judgmental faces.
You did not play on Iron Man.
That wasn't it, but now I wish it were.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I do play on Iron Man, and then you press the button.
Yep. And it did really
well. Immediately killed.
Well, no, it was
you can't even.
Yeah, I had the experience that at least is my classic experience with XCOM, which is that I started off pretty well, and I was playing very carefully, and I was learning, sort of taking everything I'd learned from my previous 2 attempts into account, and then I got to the farthest point I've been. And all the things I hadn't learned yet, I was oh, fuck, I don't know how this guy works. and then I would just die brutally because
they have other modes that enable you to more successfully learn those things.
You mean not Ironman mode?
I would describe them as not Ironman mode, as the other modes.
I know. I instantly regretted my choice. I just got wiped out by like a muton.
Yeah, I did the same thing. Yeah. So yeah, then I turned off Iron Man and then was just incredibly shameless with save reloading. Just oh man, like because you can get yourself into positions in this game where. The concealment allows you to basically edge your way up to like an enemy patrol and then like try and like sneak between two patrols.
Yeah.
But you're doing it on like a turn-based, in a turn-based scenario. So you can spend like 6 turns trying to get your guys into just like the perfect like crack of this level.
Yeah.
And then just get demolished anyway.
Yep.
Which you will spend hour if you save reload that, which I do. Like I will not restart. I will not let my guys die at this point because it's just too painful. I just want to get through a thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just finding like the one way to solve it. Basically, has turned the game into like Hitman for me,
right?
Where I'm just trying to solve the puzzle of this weird thing that I put myself into every time.
Yeah, a thing that is additionally kind of. Oh, sorry, Jake. Go ahead.
Oh no, nothing. That description of a scenario makes me sad. But go ahead. Sorry.
It's pretty stupid.
A thing that sort of compounds some of the stuff going on with the concealment thing, which is where you get sort of the drop on enemies by starting the mission without them being able to see you and then carrying that forward as far as you can. That has a weird wrinkle with the fact that many of these missions have a turn limit. Like many of these missions, you only have say 7
Almost
turns.
all of them.
Yeah, a high percentage of missions you have to complete in a certain number of turns before there's like a forced retreat or the thing that you're trying to get to finishes its thing or whatever.
How common was that in the previous XCOM?
I don't remember it being very common.
Yeah, it was not common at all.
Yeah,
they were like just You would hit one of those and go like, oh man, it's a timer mission. Oh shoot, darn! But I mean, they were very rare. It was like a very specific like.
I know that I bring this up all the fucking time, but do you think that's because things like Hitman Go and Tomb Raider and Lara Croft Go exist and are entirely? I guess those aren't turn limit based games. But I think of them so much more as
solving
a puzzle or like a scenario built around you have. N possible moves before it explodes, except that this is XCOM, so the levels are the opposite of that.
Yeah, you don't have that perfect information that allows you to operate that way. To me, that's an interesting point. I mean, to me, the thing that it makes me think is that they were reacting to the kind of play that Nick was describing of this just like endless turn after turn.
Where you can sort of just get into like a dance that goes forever.
Yeah. And when I'm playing, I feel that very palpably. I feel like the game doesn't want me to fall into that. And sometimes I will for like 4 turns, and then I'll realize, oh my God, I'm halfway through
by putting
the
a
mission.
Turn limit, they're trying to make you like take action and
be more proactive,
take heavier risks than you would.
And that I think also serves to further the sensation, Nick, you were describing last week of being this sort of insurgent or guerrilla force.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in the game that I think really works towards that end, but oh my God, it's hard. It's just so hard.
Because if there's one thing an insurgent guerrilla force doesn't do, it's get in a dance of exhaustion with an enemy. Whatever.
Yeah, there's no like war of attrition like as
there probably is all of those things, but whatever. Well, I was just being an asshole. I think you're actually correct.
I mean, the thing that an insurgent force is, I think, more trying to do is get the other side to
exhaust
the war.
Themselves.
There's a mission that I did last night that is one of this sort of key missions where you have to destroy a key object and you get to use a bigger than normal squad, and it's additionally like you are supplied with reinforcements from your...
Is it a trap?
No, it's not a trap. It's just that you have to destroy this thing, and the enemy will also keep sending more fucking reinforcements. It's just a grinder. It was intense. I was like, I'm going to clean up these guys, and I got to the point where I'd cleaned up the sort of the ones that were there, and I was in bad shape, and I think I'd lost one guy, but I was like, okay, I did it. Jesus Christ. And then they just kept sending more, and the ones they were sending more of were the huge ogres, and I was just like, well, holy shit. This is when I just alt F4 enough. have to start a new campaign not on Ironman.
Yeah.
Because, oh my God.
But,
I
yeah.
just swallowed my D there. That was weird. Oh my God. I don't know what that was.
You Alt F4'd out of that sentence.
Yeah.
But there was a real-time reverb effect applied. Sorry, what?
Yeah.
You know how sometimes you quit a game but the sound engine stays loaded?
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
That's how video games are made for some reason. That's always actually really palpable and weird when you're playing a game that has real-time effects that still apply, and you go to the pause menu and you just hear the cathedral fall off of a pause effect because someone fucked up. Anyway.
I hope there's a field added to the thumbs DB that tracks how many times the word palpable is said in any given episode, because it's twice so far this time, and now it's 3. So let's keep that going.
Palpable.
Anyway.
That Idle Thumbs episode announcing Robot will also be allowed to just idle in the background and say the word palpable.
Right.
Nick, who
just
said it
detect
first?
a sentence and
Was
just
it Nick that
attach
said
it
it
to the-
first?
I think I said it first.
Oh, Nick, you've got to
Yes.
say the word palpable once.
Yeah.
We're up to like 8 now, probably.
Yeah, but if
Gross.
Nick says palpable,
Yeah, but if I say it, then, you know.
then people have all of
he's
our voices.
tactically avoiding it. He's waiting to the insurgent force waiting to deploy this term when it's most strategically effective.
Yep.
So, do you feel like you're making significant progress in XCOM 2, Nick?
I finally am. But I mean, you don't really make progress in this game, right? I mean, you're just kind of staving off. Well, I mean, you're staving off like destruction.
Yeah, these like
presumably at some
huge
point
projects that they're working on.
Yeah, presumably at some point, like a story thing will happen.
Yeah,
and that won't be an issue anymore. But
I don't even know. Feel like I have a great handle on how I'm supposed to be dealing with the world map yet, and I've done a lot of it.
I finally do. I think it's just do all the stuff. Like, just fly around and...
Nice.
Well, I mean, you just click all the buttons.
Yeah, there are these like intel gathering opportunities that pop up throughout the map, and then missions will kind of be generated. And
it's more similar to the original XCOM than I think I realized last week. Yeah, like, because the way it works is that the missions, they always give you the 3 options.
Create intel networks and shit.
Yeah, they give you the 3 options for missions, and the way it's presented in this game, it feels like you kind of want to do them all, but they don't. Once you do one, it closes out the other 2. It's really just making a choice, which is basically
you're basically
the way
trying to balance. Each of these has like side effects that will be shitty for me. Which are the least bad ones to happen?
Right,
cross-referenced with like
global
the
side
difficulty
effects
of the mission.
Yeah.
So can I afford to try the hard mission?
The thing I missed is that like in the original, those things would have negative consequences for your regions, and in the way that it's presented in this game, it makes it feel like that's the case, but they're actually not. Like the consequences are always global. Like they're always like related to that whatever, like advent thing, like the countdown timer and the specific effects that like enemies now have like shields when they didn't have shields before because you didn't do this mission or whatever. So yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't really know how to quantify how far I am into this game at this point, but it just still is really hard. Like, you know, like the new enemies, like have you gotten to the point where those the clone guys, the guys that clone themselves
the
and the
codex.
Yeah, and they'll just sort of drop a bomb on top of all of your guys that
those
like
things are nuts.
Explodes after a single round. And then meanwhile, your guys can't reload. Like they have to reload. Everybody has to reload.
Oh yeah,
like, what a crazy thing that is! Like
man, the most just like miserable, terrible moment is when you're just about to wipe up the last bits of a force, or like an incredibly powerful enemy who's down to like 3 health, and then you realize, and every one of your units is in a great position, and then they all are out of ammo, and you're like, well, goodbye, good night.
Yeah,
it's all fucked now forever. So a thing that I was thinking about recently with this, or yesterday, I guess, with this game, that I'm really amazed that this game is doing as well as it's doing as sort of a PC exclusive, incredibly punishing and brutal strategy game. And it's selling really, really well, which is awesome because I think it's really good. And it's getting great reviews as well, which is also really impressive. But there's something that is, you know, I mean, I would say outside of just the positive reception generally, the thing most people have said about this game is it's hard as hell, which is accurate. And it made me realize that something that is really required for a game like this to reach the kind of to get the reception that it sort of should get is it just needs a lot of time. You know, like there's a certain the way that stuff is received just in the culture right now these days because of things like social media and also just simply because of the preponderance of media. There's so much stuff you can get for fairly, in a fairly cost-effective way all the time across like any form of entertainment. That and games have actually been this way for a long time. The way that you react to games, especially big games with a marketing budget behind them, is to like basically form judgments almost instantly, like within a couple days of release even. And then these days, sometimes there's like a backlash a week or two later, but like you get that sort of really big reaction right after. And Idle Weekend, our spinoff podcast with Danielle Riendeau and Rob Zacny, talked about this a few weeks ago, and they did a big segment on critical consensus. But the part of it that I was thinking about is not quite that. Related to games like this, I think you kind of need this like huge amount, fairly significant amount of breathing room in order to actually get from this game the thing that you will look back on it as giving you way down the line, right? Because it's a game that you can't play through it. Like you can't rush to beat this game the way that sort of a story-driven game or even a sort of shooter or something that has a campaign, like a start to finish campaign.
Campaign game.
Yeah, like there's no way to sort of just deterministically like I'm gonna play through XCOM like right. I'm gonna stay up all night and play through it.
You could slam BioShock in a way that you cannot slam XCOM.
Yeah. You have to learn XCOM 2, and that's going to require probably failing a lot and going back and starting over a lot. And for most players, unless they're like XCOM savants, and I have no doubt that a bunch of those exist, it's, you have to sort of just marinate in it for a while. And that's something that, one, is not encouraged by the way that games are sort of received and discussed now. Mm-hmm. And that's not really anyone's individual fault. That's just a combination of a lot of factors. And then, two is, I think, just difficult for a lot of people. Like, certainly for me, right? Like, I have so much stuff going on right now, and that's not unique to me. That's, like, just very common. Like, it's hard to... I've been playing this game as much as I can, but I'm, like, squeezing in an hour or two here and there, and it's not a lot of time relative to what... If I want... when I was 10 years younger, certainly I would have put into this game at the same period after its release. And I don't know. I just was thinking about this, and I'm wondering how do you encourage that in players, or how do you make it possible for players to do that? Whilst if your goal is to make something that's incredibly difficult and requires learning by sort of experimentation and failure, which I think are good things to be able to encourage in a player base. Like, I think it's good to be able to encourage your player base to be sort of patient and willing to learn after trial and error to some degree. I mean, you don't want it to get just like pointlessly punishing, but I don't know.
Do you think it's interesting in the case of XCOM specifically because of XCOM's scale as a game, because it's a Firaxis game, because it's released by 2K, and because it's not Don't Starve or something like that? Like, it's not a 12 to 2 person roguelike, it's an XCOM.
Yeah. The starting over feel like one of the things that I'm struggling with now, just because of the time I have, is starting over feels like a huge decision. It's like there's a lot of infrastructure that I'm throwing away when I just throw a save game out the window. Whereas a game like Don't Starve, or I don't know, something even more disposable, and I don't mean that the game is disposable, but that any play session
like FTL
is disposable. Yeah, like FTL, like Tharsis, like Binding of Isaac, like Spelunky, games where it's very, 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 very clear that a run is something that most of the time will end in failure.
Whereas XCOM feels like a campaign.
XCOM feels like a big campaign with all of these different components to it, and like a huge world map, and like a different strategic fronts, and like a squad that I'm building up over time, and they have names, and but it's still like realistically, you're still gonna have to throw it all away a bunch of times before you know what you're doing.
The sequel to me feels more strange in that regard than the original game.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like the original game, I don't know, maybe it's just telegraphing the idea that you're going to lose better, like there's just, for whatever reason, like maybe it's just because it is a sequel and it just doesn't feel like a game that you know, I mean, they put more attention to detail into like the cutscenes and everything. It just kind of feels like a campaign in a lot of ways, but it's still just the game you're going to get demolished playing, right? You know, I guess to me, it just like loading up the original XCOM, I never felt like everything did sort of feel more disposable in a way, whereas this game, it's just like...
Do you think that's at all story related? Do you think, this is stupid to say, but do you think
I think so.
The government agency that is in over its head and isn't really believing its own hype about the alien invasion is that's the story of someone who loses.
Exactly.
The story of humanity rising up from the ashes to fight the aliens. That's the story of people who win.
Yes.
But in the game, it's still the story of the people who just get their asses handed to them over and over again.
Right. Yeah. No, I think
really
that's
funny.
I think that's actually maybe true. Yeah. In my head, at least.
It's way more grim, actually, in a way, because of that. Because the sort of story archetype of the band of rebels is always that they overcome it, whereas the other one, the previous story, the structure is one of like just fatalistic destruction.
Yeah, maybe a Pyrrhic victory, but
right. You're just a guy in the middle of a bureaucracy that is failing. And when you fail, you just go, well, I told you. Like, I knew this was going to happen. And then, whereas this just feels like...
you got the bureaucracy fails, and then maybe the, like, ragtag group of a couple dissenters within the bureaucracy
we knew it. We
score
survived.
a key victory.
Right, exactly.
Which is actually the plot of this game, of the sequel, which is that, like, one of the guys who was in the bureaucracy in the first game is just, like, back, and they give him shit about it.
Guy.
And she's like, God, did you see the story, like, content that is, like, fired the second that guy comes back to your base? Like, the engineer girl's just like, man, why did you, like, turn the other side? That was really shitty. And he's just like, well, I don't know. I didn't really know what I was doing. I guess I'm kind of a dick. And she's like, well, I'm glad you're here now, I guess. And he's like, well, I'm trying to, like, atone for what I did. And she's like, well, it's going to take a long time. And that's the end
I don't know if I saw that. Is that the guy who used to be the green sweater guy?
Yes. Well, it's the, yeah.
By the way, I really missed that guy's outfit.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he actually mentions it, I think, at some point.
Really?
Yeah, he's like, I miss my sweater or something like that.
Me too.
Maybe I'm making that up, but maybe
bro.
I just miss it. But I'm pretty sure he actually says it.
Yeah.
Wait for the XCOM Steam workshop where you can restore that guy's green sweater.
Oh my god! By the way, did I mention this last week? There's a mod for this game on the Steam Workshop that's apparently one of like a genre of mods of this type, and it's called "Don't Waste My Time."
Yes,
and it's just, all it does is reduce these like 1 to 3 second pauses after certain actions in the game, and that's the entire mod. Like some things in this game, and XCOM 1 was the same way, where you execute an action and then the game just like holds the camera for a second to 3 seconds to sort of, I guess, just make sure you understand what the state of the battlefield is now.
It feels like this game is more egregious in that. I think it is sense.
Too, but that might also just be because that's a less interesting memory that my brain has sort of filtered out of the. I can't really remember, but in any case, that cracked me up.
Are you playing with Don't Waste My Time?
I'm actually not, because I have that. In addition to the voices telling me to play Ironman, I have the voices telling me that like if you install mods before you beat the game for real, you're cheating. Even though
my
this
voice
one
is
has
saying
no,
the same thing.
Like,
also,
whereas there's got to be a true voice saying Iron Man plus the most maximized Don't Waste My Time mod is the true XCOM.
That's true.
All hotkeys, no mouse.
Yeah. All texture is removed.
Yeah.
Actually, I do have two on that note. 2 hot tips for people. Definitely run this game was. I was getting
definitely fixed 144. 34-inch display.
Oh yeah, right. Definitely 1020. Yeah,
definite G-Sync.
And degauss your monitor.
Pro tip: don't forget to degauss
your enormous CRT monitor.
Yeah.
Don't forget to degauss your array of 70 CRTs that you're using to control this insurgent force.
No, run the stupid graphics, in the options under video settings or whatever. Run the thing that optimizes your graphics settings.
Okay.
Yeah, because the performance of this game, like people are losing their minds at how sluggish it is.
Well, you know what's weird? Okay, go ahead.
I rarely actually run that thing in a game. Once I did, it just set everything to where it probably should be set and then worked. Oh. Also, did you see this caps lock thing?
No.
Oh man, God, it's hilarious. So when you leave a mission, you hit that sort of like in-world loading screen that everybody's doing now, where your guys are in the drop ship and they're coming back, and then the game has to reload the base, and then finally a button pops up and says now you can load the base. You can just hit caps lock and that button appears instantly and skips the load.
What?
Yeah.
Why is the load there then?
So it was a mystery for like a week and a half. Nobody understood why this worked. And it turns out just yesterday, a Firaxis guy was like, well, so the way that works is it basically just holds rendering of all frames until the base is loaded. So it causes this massive hitch. And he's like, well, you can do it. We don't really support it, and it might crash the game, but like, go ahead and do it.
Caps lock.
Yeah. It's so weird.
A debug key that
I do it every time
right?
now. Oh yeah, I'm
so
sure it's
instead of
thing.
looking at the load screen, you just look at a frozen frame of your base until everything streams in.
I mean, it's instantaneous. It's within like a second of hitting caps lock, it loads. Whereas you're like sometimes you're waiting up to 20 seconds sitting there for the stupid base to load.
Fascinating.
There's got to be
really
something
strange.
that someone on that game is like, everyone's skipping this, and there probably were even people on the team who are like, our loads could be way faster, and then one guy who probably cares a shitload about some weird friend shit that is going to break everyone's game is like, there's a reason.
Don't do it. I'm telling you,
man. Speaking of that scene, the moment when I ended my first campaign and restarted it, was in one of my earlier missions in that game. You know, I was talking about the sort of that's the screen it gives you during that when it says hit percentage, like, and then it also lists things like soldier who did the most damage, soldier who moved the farthest, soldier with the most kills, whatever.
Yeah.
And there was one mission where it was the same soldier for all of those. I just had one XCOM soldier who just wrecked on that mission.
Man, how many days till retirement for that soldier? Also,
well, and she
I
was.
do like that they can get PTSD in this game. By the way.
Oh yeah, that's crazy. And she was bald and always wore sunglasses. And then also she was in the far front right of the dropship always, which is like an area where you can see that soldier.
Yeah.
And it was one where she had just wrecked shop, and she was like, when she was leaning back in her seat, she was off frame, but when she was leaning front in her seat, her head was poking into the right of frame, and she had these idle animations where she would just give the biggest fucking shit-eating grins and smirk and nod all the time.
Right.
And so behind her, there's this billboard being most damage, most distance traveled, most kills.
I bet she would just occasionally photobomb the load screen and just smirk at you.
Right.
Yeah, and it was amazing. And
God, I want the glasses dropping mod where they just
I know. And so
your best ranked person always just gets deal with it.
Yeah.
And so I got so accustomed to, even when she wasn't the best performing soldier, I got so accustomed to her always just being there, being fuck yeah.
Yeah.
That when she died, and the first time I had to go back to the base and she wasn't doing that, I was like, well, fuck this. This is done.
Yeah.
I'm
Did some other guy do a shitty smirk? Because that would have made you even more enraged.
No, nobody was just sitting in that seat.
Oh, that's
really
even worse. That's way worse.
Yeah,
oh, man.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah. So that was when I ended my first campaign.
Yeah. Man. There are some funny things
when
in
you
this
lost
game.
that smug lord.
Yep.
Yeah. I like when your guys are gravely injured and they walk off the dropship confidently, and then they get 20 paces and everybody just falls to the ground. Have you seen this?
No.
Oh man, it's so good. They have animations that correspond to how damaged they were during the mission. So if they're gravely wounded, they just try to walk it off, but then they all just eventually collapse in front of the thing that says promote this soldier. So
oh,
it's
right.
Just,
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Oh god, it's so funny.
I don't think I've ever
the animation is just really funny
to that transition point.
Oh yeah.
I think when I finish the mission, that's usually when I get up to go to the bathroom or get a drink or something, and then I come back and they're all just hunched
no, they
over.
just fall on their faces. It's yeah. There's some weird little touches in this game. It's hilarious.
The Nick, you mentioned, we're probably wrapping up, I guess, our thoughts on this, but Nick, you mentioned last week the kind of strange, just patchwork of polish in this game, which I totally agree is kind of odd.
Yeah.
The way that there's the fully animated people, but then also the little sort of intentionally glitchy
portrait
video feed of them talking, which often are present at the same time, which is just very odd. And the reason they do that, I think, is because it allows them to keep talking to you even when you've left the area where they are.
True.
And no matter where you are in the base, that little thing can stay in the corner of the screen. But it still feels like a not fully solved presentation thing. And then there's untextured models in the game that are flying around.
Oh, weird.
Well, yeah, they're untextured models. Also, the camera is just wonky. When you go from, for instance, right before you load a mission and all your guys are standing there, you can hit build an item, and then the camera just zooms to the engineering bay which it doesn't just like fade out or like move to that thing. It just, the camera just moves through half of your base in like 3 seconds, and just polygons are just flying at the screen for like a good couple of seconds, and then you load into that thing. It looks weird every time. Like there's some really weird.
And so like given all that stuff, and also given how good I think Firaxis is at making games like this, I think it was a really just incredibly exciting thing when they branched out from Civilization style games, which I also love enormously, into this kind of more tactical board gamey, like classic XCOM inspired thing. That was really great because it turns out they're really good at it. But what I think would be the thing I would love the absolute most would be if they were to make an XCOM game or similar, game in this vein that just did not try to be a full-scale 3D AAA.
You want the iPhone game. It takes more from
Hitman
Civ.
Go.
Right? I mean...
Yeah, maybe even, maybe more
like Civ,
but
Civ doesn't have the cinematic aspirations that XCOM does.
That's true, but Civ still feels like an incredibly grand presentation that you shouldn't be starting over all the time. Like, the reason this popped into my head is because we were talking about this game, the other games that are kind of similar.
Oh, okay. You want an XCOM that feels more lightweight, so it feels okay to re-roll it.
Yeah, like FTL or Tharsis or something like that, where it's like, okay... It's this. The presentation of the game suggests
you want XRev.
This is like a game with runs as opposed to a game with like a huge campaign.
Yeah, this isn't really answering that question, but we should probably try that other XCOM like game that people play.
Chaos Reborn, the one from Julian Gollop, who actually made the original XCOM.
That's not actually XCOM like though, is it? Is it?
No, there's another game.
I think it still is though.
Okay. I'm being like shitty on a game podcast and not knowing the name of this game, but there is another XCOM alike that is a thing that people play that people say is good. It's very much But anyway, it's pretty lightweight from what I can tell. Cool. I mean, it's still a PC game that has 3D graphics and stuff, but it's not it's not exactly what you're talking about. But
whatever.
But people enjoy it.
I guess we should figure out what that is.
Yeah, the iPhone version, essentially, or iPad, kind of that feeling of a
except
game.
on PC.
Except on PC, yeah.
Or whatever, also on the iPhone, that's fine.
Sure.
Well, want to take a break?
Sure. Yeah.
Video game. This episode of Idle Thumbs is brought to you by Casper Mattresses. Obsessively engineered American-made mattresses at a shockingly fair price. That's a sentence that can only be said with a steely gaze and a clenched jaw.
Truly. I thought it was an acronym for a minute. I didn't know where...
Casper Mattresses. Oh, yeah, ass. Go with, hey, Casper, get in touch about that.
Sure.
Anyway, they are actually quite affordably priced. They start at $500 for a twin-size mattress. They're extremely comfortable. And get this, if you go to casper.com/thumbs and use the promo code thumbs, you will get $50 towards any mattress purchase.
It's pretty good.
I know, Nick, that you've been long coveting that Casper mattress.
I have been. I think I'm going to pull the trigger within the next couple of weeks. So
you got to do it.
Hopefully,
got to use that code. Also, I hear they have pillows now.
Oh, wow.
And apparently they're incredibly comfortable pillows.
Nice.
So I got to get on this too. I definitely can attest to the comfort of the Casper mattress, but take it even further.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Yeah.
Just do it.
Mm-hmm. Another thing about Casper is they have a free trial and return policy. So if you do pull the trigger and you're not digging it, they will take it back and refund you. I don't think that is likely to happen based on my experience with Casper, but, it's there. Casper.com/thumbs with the promo code thumbs for $50 towards any mattress. Video game. This episode of Idle Thumbs is also brought to you by Postmates. Postmates is a courier service that will bring you goods and food from anywhere in your city. Download the app on iOS or Android. You use the promo code thumbs to get a free delivery, and you can just load up all the different places they will bring you stuff from your city. It's ridiculously exhaustive. You can even just search for stuff on their website if you're just browsing around and you're curious where they deliver from. We have often talked about ordering from Whiz Burger here in San Francisco. Mm-hmm. And I think today is the day for me.
You're doing it?
I think today is the day
I'm order up a Whiz.
I'm doing the Whiz Burger special.
Nice.
As suggested by our buddy The Gun Run over at twitch.tv.
Good.
And He didn't tell me to say that. I just think it's hilarious. So yes, they will bring you stuff from businesses in your city, local, including hyper local businesses like Whiz Burger, as local as it gets, basically in this case, but also just anywhere else, and they'll bring them to your door, your home or office, wherever. So again, if you download the Postmates app on iOS or Android and use the promo code THUMBS, you will get a free delivery of that. Try it out.
Thanks, Postmates.
Thanks, Postmates.
Video game.
Welcome to our surprise game segment.
Oh man, we're back.
Hey.
As you know, every week on Idle Thumbs, we talk about a surprise game.
This is the surprise game.
We don't do that, but Nick, you played a game, I think.
Sometimes it's a surprise
It's a game where just, you think you're playing Snake and then a guy screams.
Oh man, that was such a great era of the
Whenever
internet.
I bring that up, I make Chris really excited and nostalgic.
Oh,
Your
so
eyes
good.
mist up when I talk about stupid Flash websites
Scary
where
face maze games.
Yeah, those were good.
Classic times. Java games.
Oh, Java games.
I thought you said Jabba games.
Java games. Classic. We think it's a Java game, but then there's a scary Java face.
Salacious Crumb.
I was going to say Salacious Crumb. I couldn't think of his name. Yeah, I'm staring right at him.
Oh, that's true. We do have a little Salacious
Yeah,
Crumb doll in here.
yeah.
What a gross doll this is. I like that they managed to make.
Don't pull the cord on his
skin,
back.
Like,
He'll sing the
actual,
special edition Return of the Jedi song.
He'll just go
yeah, or that forever. Yeah.
Oh man, this thing feels as clammy and disgusting as you imagine this actual
it really does.
creature would.
You don't think Salacious Crumb is warm?
I don't. I mean, I don't. Whatever I might have thought.
His name is Salacious.
Yeah, whatever I
Yeah.
might have thought, assumed touching this
Crumb.
gross doll sort of repositions my.
I think that
assumptions
Salacious Crumb is warm and that he can feel love and that he really just wants to just sort of. I mean,
I think that's what it says in Wikipedia. I'm pretty sure that
there are two
he
different rubber embossed legends on here informing you that this is
rubber
made in Sri
embossed
Lanka.
legends.
I couldn't think of what the when it says made in wherever.
Just said there's text.
Yeah.
I'm reading one of the two legends on the back of Salacious Crumb.
Gross guy.
Yeah, put that away.
Oh, this is branded Star Tours. It's from Disneyland, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh.
Zach
Anyway.
from Video Games Hot Dog went to Disneyland and brought us back
Oh,
a
that's
Salacious
funny.
Crumb.
Yeah.
Ugh, now he's here forever.
Oh,
Oh, Nick, you're sitting in that bed of tingles.
yeah, yeah.
Couldn't help but notice that you're sitting on at least
Nick is
12
literally
tingles.
sitting on
It
a
is just-
pile
yeah.
of little tingle dolls.
Yeah. They are.
What a
I'm
ridiculous
overflowing with
office
tingles.
this is,
I sat
apparently.
down and just one of them, just by overflow, just sort of spilled off the couch. That's how many tingles there are. Yeah, this is a weird.
Anyway, let's stop talking about tingles and start talking about this is the surprise game segment.
Surprise
where we
game
announce
is
we're going to
just
talk about a
talking about
game.
all the toys
And we're going to talk about toys.
Stuffed animals. Yeah. So my surprise game, or the surprise game, is NBA 2K16. So
Whoa.
some preface on this.
NBA 2K16 : the surprise game.
Yeah.
The great game.
The great game.
The
The
greatest.
surprise game is Spycraft, the great game.
So I actually, I just remembered in preparing for this that I remembered I talked about NBA something.
I think
a
you
couple
bought a
years ago.
PlayStation to play 2K15. That might be true.
Well, I didn't buy a PlayStation to play it. I think that was one of the few games that was available at the
Let's
time.
rewind. No. Anyway.
So I'm not a fan of the NBA. I don't actually like basketball. So I don't know why I played this, except that it was a free weekend, and I saw that it existed. But yeah, I don't really like
did you play
basketball.
on?
I feel like basketball is a very broken game. It feels like a game that has a set of rules that needs to be patched or something.
Well,
whenever I watch,
that has happened
yeah,
several
I know.
pretty significant times.
Yeah.
There are two notable episodes of the 99% Invisible podcast that are entirely about basically basketball patch notes, which are about
interesting.
the 3-point line and the shot clock are both major
Yeah.
upgrades to basketball that happened
Yeah.
over the years.
Yeah, and that's the really interesting thing about basketball this year specifically, and our city, which is that, and
yeah.
again, I don't watch basketball, but I follow occasionally certain storylines in terms of
Sure.
sports.
But you can't
And-
not. if
Yeah,
you
well,
live
I mean,
around
it's
here.
interesting because it's in some ways it is. So, the Golden State Warriors this year have Steph Curry, who is basically destroying the game of basketball. He's essentially like breaking the game. Like he is a
speedrunner
he's solved like the speed run of basketball by just specializing in 3-point shots to the extent that the rest of the league can't deal with it, because in basketball, position is a big deal.
Well, the 3-point line was added because everyone was just dunking all the time.
Right. Yeah. Well, yes. Yeah. But,
more or less.
But now the percentages on 3-point shots typically are 30% or lower, right? It's pretty hard to make a 3-point shot, but Steph Curry can do it, I think, on like a 50% kind of. I don't know exactly his percentages, but they're crazy. Him and Klay Thompson can just basically stand back, take a shot, and it's 3 points every other shot, and which is positionally that's changing the way that you have to like cover those guys. So it's they're going to probably set the record for a regular season wins this year. It's this crazy thing that's happening, and I just like the fact that it puts attention on like the actual game of basketball in a way that you normally wouldn't think about it as just a game.
It seems like that's because basketball popped into existence. It's like it's the most, I guess, American football also, but American football is a weird branch off of a way long-standing sport, whereas basketball feels like it just popped into existence one day as a fully formed thing, and then
has been like it popped into existence as a sort of unconsidered thing.
Yeah.
And then
like basketball was like invented by a gym teacher
game.
or something that just
was.
popped up as a schoolyard sport made up. Mm-hmm. But like, and then if you look at like goaltending, obviously that like weird like rules getting introduced. Basketball, if it was a video game, you're right, it would just be a bunch of sequels or a bunch of patches that are like.
Well, I think the closest comparison is definitely to, I mean, this is the reason esports are called esports, is because they resemble real sports in this way, where people figure out like.
So they're going to nerf Steph Curry at some point.
Well, I mean, that's where those rules come from, though. I mean, that's like I mean, obviously, traditional sports evolve much more slowly than esports, and I think that is a strength. Like that is that is a good thing.
It gives consistency.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Like, and when there's like such an overwhelmingly like tilted kind of like meta discovery or like skill that evolves that just makes the rules off kilter, then like you have to do something about it. But the deliberative process on that is like generational rather than monthly as it is in video games.
Yeah. So anyway, that stuff is all interesting.
Yeah.
But so is this game. So. So the crazy thing about this game. So I think when I talked about the other 2K version, which was like 2 years ago, it was mainly just, man, this is crazy. Michael Jordan looks like Michael Jordan, and he's got like weird PS4 sweat coming down his face. Well, now the create a player thing is to the fidelity, and this is mainly why I bought, I eventually bought it, but this is mainly why I started playing this game, is I wanted to make myself in the game, of course. But now it's crazy. So here's me, and I'll kind of like briefly describe like the actual mode that you're. Are
you going to show us this week's episode art?
Is this this a high enough resolution picture that we can?
I took a few. This is one of many.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. So anyway, let me just back up 2 seconds. So the creating a player thing is specifically for this mode called My Player or My Career or whatever, my thing, my
you have
game.
To sign into like
a new feature called My Yahoo.
Yeah, right.
You have to sign into 2K's.
Yeah, you have to do all that stuff. It syncs, blah blah blah.
Into K.
But this year, weirdly, they got Spike Lee. You probably saw this. They got Spike Lee to make this weird campaign for your guy.
Oh, so it's Nick Breckon in.
Oh yeah,
that's Spike Lee joint.
That's exactly how it begins. It says like whatever, starring like a Spike Lee joint starring Nick Breckon, and then there's just your guy
starring Ratso Fatso Rat.
This is my lifelong dream.
Yeah, it's basically it's called Living the Dream, and you
I mean, specifically Nick Breckon in a Spike Lee joint.
Yes,
my dream.
Yes.
But
it also is called.
It's called Living the Dream.
It's called Living the Dream. Yeah. So you play
Living
through this
Chris's
thing.
dream.
You make your character
a Spike Lee joint.
You start out in high school.
Does it age your avatar?
No.
Oh, canceled.
No. It does do some funny things. Like
Can you customize the journal entries your mom wrote about you when you were a kid?
You can't do any of that stuff. It's all very rigid, weird. Which is really weird because my twin sister is a black girl. So she's your twin sister, but that's fine. Other than the fact that they call out the fact that she is your twin, it actually sort of works as this weird story where you're like a white dude who seems like he's been adopted by this family and they're all really care about you and like cheer for you and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, like I looked on the Steam forums and there's a super gross reaction to the fact that like, oh, like didn't account for this, so Spike Lee's a racist. But like, it's just absurd. And like every negative review mentions that. I actually think it's kind of cool that they just sort of hard-coded it as like a story that is for the specific experience because it feels honest to me as opposed to this generic floppy thing. Right. He's from Harlem, it's fine. Like it totally works. Anyway, the actual campaign itself is bad. Like it's silly.
Yeah.
But the things that it actually like points to in terms of like an interesting thing happens, which is that it starts simulating actual like problems that you would have as a guy who wants to like make it in the NBA. So it starts rating you based on like what your teammates think of you at all times. It gives you this little report card at the top of the screen.
So like, just, are you a shit?
Are you basically a shit or are you like a good teammate? Like, are you a guy that, because so the game is going to draft you into the NBA, and based on how well you specifically as a guy are doing, it's going to, rate you better or worse. And then draft you higher or lower. And so you start to like actually think about like what a real player would be going through, which is like, am I doing the best thing so my team can win? Or am I just kind of like trying to take all the cool shots so that I look cool and then I get more money? So there's some like weird, interesting stuff. But anyway.
Man, it turns out it's an emotional game after all. In this era of emotion games.
Yeah. So here's the guy that I made. So this is me trying to shoot on LeBron James.
Look at some other photographs of you?
You probably, yeah. It pumps you up as like the new LeBron James, except that the way that the career works, the way that the game has to work from a gameplay standpoint, is that you start out rated at like 50, and 99 is like probably what you're used to playing if you're playing like NBA Jam or something.
Yeah.
So the game is saying, like, this guy's amazing. He's the best. Meanwhile, I'm 5'11", and I can't shoot at all. And so now it's this story, like, I get drafted, and, like, I'm playing my first game, and they're going, well, oh, they call you freak, which I skipped a cutscene. I didn't understand why they call you freak. I thought they just, like, maybe realized that I'm 5'11" and, like, a stupid guy who can't shoot, and they just started calling me freak, but actually it's short for frequency, which is, like, your cool nickname Spike Lee gave you. Anyway, so I'm playing, and I didn't understand, so they're like, oh, freak's out there. He's the new, look at Freak. He took another shot and missed.
What an idiot.
Freak. Way to go, Freak. Like, good job, Freak. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, I'm this shitty guy. And like, they're giving me all this money to be like this shitty 5'11" idiot who can't do anything. Like, I was just like dumbfounded. And then also because you get drafted.
Sideshow.
Yeah. Because you get drafted into the NBA. And it's semi-realistic in that like they don't make you a starter immediately. You're just a bench player. It just skips forward to like every moment that you get put into the game.
Whoa, that's actually kind of cool.
It's kind of cool. So like I started the game, it immediately just skipped to the second quarter and just subbed me in for the last 30 seconds of that half.
That's crazy.
And I took one shot and missed, and they're like, man, Freak is just messing up today. Man, he's got a lot of pressure on him. Anyway, okay, halftime. And I was like, oh my God, this is like the worst thing. Like, I am the shittiest guy.
I actually love that a lot.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. And then it just like skips into the second half, and our team's losing by like 30 points. And then I played for like 2 minutes, and then it just I made a shot finally, and then it just like the coach took me out and just immediately ended the game. Like it was just like game over. You still lost by 40 points. Good job, idiot. And then
you made a shot. You did your job.
This is an amazing counterpoint to the XCOM 2 narrative.
Yeah,
where it's like the incentive force is supposed to be where they always come back and win after all.
Yeah.
And this is like came up, with like this promising star, like anyway, gets put in, flubs every game, like
right.
Wah, wah, wah.
And the other thing too, when you it's giving you this constant rating, and it's a teammate rating. It's based on what your squad thinks of you at the time. one of the things that it does is if you hold on to the ball too long, it just immediately drops your rating. It's like, well, why are you standing there like an idiot? You're being a dick. Cool. Why are you doing this? One of the things that it does is when you get low enough, your teammates just start ignoring you. So
you start being like over here.
Yeah, you're just like throwing your arms like, yeah, of course. And then it says like call for pass ignored. And so I'm just like this 5'11" idiot, just like, hey guys, I'm over here. And they're just like, no, and they just start taking shots. And then it's so stupid. Then if you start calling, it's really good. If you start calling for a pass too much, it says excessively called for pass, and then just like demotes you like 2 rankings.
Oh man, there was an article that ESPN, a feature-length article ESPN published in October 2014 that was really, really great, and it was an investigative sort of piece on the challenge, on these sort of alleged challenges that the Lakers have had in recruiting players in the sort of shadow of Kobe Bryant.
Well, I feel like Kobe when I'm playing this game, because the way that Kobe's playing this year, he's at the end of his career and he can't make a shot, but he still takes all the shots. Like, he's still, like, trying to be Kobe, so he's, like, taking 50 shots. At the end of the game, I'm rated an F every single game because I've taken 20 shots and missed 19 of them. And then it does other interesting things.
Maybe take fewer shots.
Yeah. And then, like...
But this is a video game where I can be the winner.
So then it throws you into a press conference, and you have to, like, make dialogue choices.
Yes! Oh, my God.
And they're like, so you really stuck it up out there, freak. Like, what were you doing, freak? Why were you so bad, freak? And then you can just blame it on your teammates or blame it on your coach.
Oh,
or like, and it's just my face.
We just went out there, we just had to give 110%.
That's exactly what he says. It's just all meaningless garbage. It's just really weird. Anyway.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well,
so
that was a lot more interesting stuff than I was expecting.
No. Yeah, that's
man. That was our best surprise game segment yet, I think.
I know.
Nick, please come back with this level of surprise game every week.
Okay, coach.
Can you get Spike Lee to add an insane campaign mode to anything?
Yeah,
ever?
he really should. Or
where's that?
Maybe he should.
Far Cry Primal, a Spike Lee joint is going to be shocking.
Thank you for that first-hand account.
You're welcome.
A thing I did not realize was that.
Yeah, I didn't either. I
thought the Spike Lee campaign was some kind of weird fantasy thing because that's what all the trailers had, like demons and fucking.
Oh yeah, I know.
No,
it's not all that. It's just Hoop Dreams, as written by Spike Lee.
Yeah.
With a lot of like.
Well, Nick isn't good
super
enough.
Expensive. Yeah, right. I haven't gotten to the Dragon.
If you
level.
manage your life correctly, you actually are then like put into the secret society of actually good players. If you get enough A's,
you start to see dragons.
It turns out that's some sort of Masonic symbol, and
right, yeah,
that's the true campaign that you haven't unlocked. Where Spike Lee himself, like, slow claps you and walks out onto an empty basketball court.
He does do that at the beginning of the campaign, actually.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You know that a video game story is made by a true auteur when they show up as a mocap version of themselves at the beginning to tell you about the game.
That's exactly what it does. It starts out where it's just the people in the mocap suits and they're filming a scene, and then he just walks out and just says, "This year we're doing a crazy thing."
That's
and
an
then
FMV?
Yeah, and then he goes bam, and then when he says bam, it just like snap cuts to his like weird like mocapped face that doesn't look at all like him, and it's really weird.
Wow.
It's really bizarre.
You bought the correct NBA 2K game.
Honestly, I didn't expect any. I just really wanted to make my face. And then I got so much more than I bargained for.
We got to get some high-res shots of that from you for the episode.
Oh, yeah. No, it's hilarious. I look hilarious. It's really good.
You guys want to do some reader mail?
Yeah.
All right. Mark Quain writes, "Hi, all. I really like how the Advent soldiers in XCOM 2 sound when you activate them. It reminds me of the Combine soldiers in Half-Life 2 and how alien and otherworldly they sound through their masks. What are your favorite barks, for lack of a better word, in games? Mark, Dublin."
All Warcraft barks.
Oh, man, yeah. Those were classic.
Those are some of the most
those are like
notable barks.
Foundational barks, yeah.
It's true.
I like anytime a guy says, "Hey, where'd he go?"
Man,
Fisher.
Well, we did
Fisher, where are you, Fisher?
Half an episode.
You son of a bitch, Fisher.
Oh, man, that Splinter Cell game where the guys all had persistence, in
Yeah.
quotes, and they remembered. All Doom 1 enemy sounds are also really good. Those aren't barks.
True.
Any classic nose snarling sound.
I mean,
this reader mentions Half-Life 2, but I mean, I would
The Combine sounds are
the
Combine soldier sounds are really strong. Actually, all the enemy sound design in Half-Life 2 is good.
All the sound design in general. I remember playing Half-Life 2 and like the first time I heard what happens when a grenade goes off, where it sort of deafens you and you hear the ringing in your ear.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It, like
the Toto's like the Saving Private Ryan thing, but hearing that in that context.
Yeah,
is really
I just
cool.
remember the entire soundscape of that game feeling really restrained in a way that was felt totally new.
When even just the gunshots to me.
Yeah.
Like
the
that
little
initial
pop gun
chase,
pistol.
that little pop
I love
that
that
you hear.
thing.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And when you Half-Life 2 sound design, the thing that I remember the most in it is when you first pop through the like old-timey double doors into the square, like the CD17 town square, and there's like the sort of spacecraft sounds in the distance and the Combine and the like random sort of unintelligible Eastern European woman's voice and Dr. Breen playing all that stuff and like the distant klaxons and stuff, man. The ambience in that game is so good.
It really is.
You could tease a new Half-Life game entirely by having a black screen and having just the sound effects from Half-Life 2 and everyone would lose their fucking mind. Like you would not need to show a single thing.
Yep.
And that game is evocative entirely through just like a 20-second sound bite of that city.
Yep, for sure.
I mean, honestly, Half-Life 1 was too for its time, but not nearly as intensely as Half-Life.
Yeah.
But like the head crab sounds and like that weird PA voice of Black Mesa, the weird like the guy that sounds like the BART train announcer, basically.
Yep.
And all the like the little computer noises of like the HEV box and stuff. It's really good.
Stuff,
and when you get the suit and everything, that stuff all just sounds so like present.
Yeah, those aren't barks, but like you know.
Well, here's a couple things that are closer to barks. So, in Amnesia, there are like those
bugs, those crunchy bugs.
Yeah, those crunchy bugs that represent you kind of going insane. I guess that's still not really barks, but those freaked me out so much. I mean, it really, that was the scariest thing about that game for me, probably, at least until I sort of just absorbed it into the soundscape. This is just what this game is. That was crazy. And then also on the totally different side of the scale, the enemy, the like alert enemy conversation in the No One Lives Forever games, which are these like super villain henchmen kind of just standing around talking about their shitty job and like just like their hobbies and like their family
like
and stuff. It's so good. Those games were totally
some of the Dark Forces games have really, those Jedi Knight games have really good unlicensed stormtrooper banter.
Oh yeah,
not to the same degree as No One Lives Forever, but there's that one scene in the first Star Wars where you hear the two stormtroopers talking about like a car, or like, "Did you see the new thing? Oh, it seems pretty good." As they walk out of the frame, and it's the best incidental dialogue, and then just expanding that out to anytime you're lurking behind stormtroopers, you hear them talking about completely asinine shit.
Man, I don't remember that from those games. That's great.
I think it was in one of the Jedi.
Surely not in Dark Forces.
It was in one of the Jedi Knight games that either Lucas or Raven did, one of the sort of like
Quake,
late Quake engine ones.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that stuff was written by Mike Stemley, who wrote Sam & Max Up the Road. Like just like as a like, you're still working here and we're not making your games anymore. Write a ton of stupid stormtrooper bullshit.
That's a good guy to have to write stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah. The person that we actually need on the show to talk about this is JP LeBreton.
Oh man, yeah, that's totally right.
Like, we should just ask him to send us a list of notable barks to read for next week, because he would just be like, "Oh, well, obviously in
right.
yeah,
yep." Thief has good like overhearing enemies stuff as well, actually, because that game is so much about like being unobserved, but also being in first person, so you're up close.
You're right next to those.
A lot of stealth games are third person, so they don't have that same like.
Yep.
Super voyeuristic thing going on.
Now that we've talked about notable barks, I'm going to disappear because I have to leave early again because I am cool.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Nick, you want
Jake.
to hang around and do some more reader mail?
Sure.
All right. See you, Jake. So Stephen Thomas writes in about real mist controls. He says, "Hey, Thumbs, on this week's show you talked about Real Mist and how it experimented with control schemes. I wanted to chime in and mention an interesting thing I observed while watching an extensive playthrough of the game. At first, the player chose to use the full WASD controls because he wanted more freedom, but as the playthrough continued, he went back to the old point-and-click method. By the end, he only used WASD for quicker movement by cutting corners while backtracking. The reason he did this is because he discovered how easy it was to miss important interactables when coming into a new scene without the prescribed precision and viewing angle. I found this fascinating, and I wonder if some modern games would benefit from having point-and-click controls, or even defaulting to them with this in mind. Keep casting the great pods, Stephen Figbird Thomas.
I'm trying to think of an example of a game that would benefit from it specifically, but
it's hard to say. I mean, I think the thing that this really illuminates more broadly about video game design, and Nick, I'm sure you would agree with this, is that decisions you make that don't even feel like decisions, such as WASD plus mouse look, have an absolutely massive impact on the experience of your game in ways that you are never going to know.
Yep.
You know, like, and if you would question some of those assumptions, like, I don't, you know, as listeners probably know, we don't spend a lot of time talking about our own projects on this show, but like, you know, Jake and I shipped Firewatch this last week, and like, that's definitely a game where there's so many things that we assumed about how people would play the game that are just not true. You know, like in most cases, right? And like, and that's fine. But you know, there's stuff that like people just aren't finding in the world. At least most people aren't, and like secret things and sort of just ways of navigating the world. And it's like, man, it turns out that the reason a lot of this stuff is not as like universally noticed is simply because we made assumptions that we didn't even realize were assumptions. And that is, it's so hard to be aware of every single little just unquestioned assumption you're making while making a game.
And the other thing is, often when you're making a game, there is just a watershed moment where you feel like you've got it and you say, okay, this is what it's going to be. But then if it's not, there's really no time in production to pull back on that. You know what I mean? You just kind of feel like this is our best stab at it, and we're going to go for this.
Weird case like Jonathan Blow making The Witness for 7 years.
But but it's pretty rare. I mean, even this is a weird example, but even like with a game like NBA, if you're making a decision about the way that like your turbo button works or something, probably by 6 months out, that it's just too late to pull back on that. You've got animations that are tied to it. You've got all sorts of...
Although in the case of NBA, you can always make the change next year.
True, exactly, yeah.
Always got another one coming.
Right. But then, you know, the downside to that is that people are actually like, they get used to that one version, right? And you make a micro change, it's almost like in the way that you would change a rule set. It suddenly feels very weird and bad, and then that year doesn't do as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think... It is just really, really difficult. God, actually, on this subject, I went home and grabbed a bunch of old games over Christmas, and I was talking about some of those, but I loaded up GoldenEye the other day, which I completely forgot.
On an N64?
Yeah, and the weird thing about it is that you...
Like an actual... Yeah.
And the weird thing about it that I forgot is that it is a game where, because it's only one analog, there is a strafe capability, but it's way more awkward than something like Metroid Prime, for example, because there aren't C buttons on the N64. I mean, there are, but they're not like, Anyway, so basically the way you play that game is just rotating and moving forward. Like the whole game is played like that. It still feels fine. It actually still feels like a really good game. Huh. Like playing the first level of that game was actually really, like, as a shooter, just as a mindless thing, like not even like even stripped of nostalgia, it was just like fine. And so it made me
once played single player GoldenEye ever.
Oh, really?
Never.
Oh, yeah.
Because I never had an N64, so I've only ever played that game at buddies' houses.
Right, which is
just play
multiplayer sleepover time. Yeah. No, I played tons of that campaign with friends. Like it was just the thing we did after school, and
That's cool.
Like that in StarCraft. And it's surprising. It's surprising how well it holds up. It doesn't bother me at all, really. And as much as I am a person that does feel super comfortable with WAS and sort of expects it, just rotating and walking down corridors, and it's just designed for that. You know what I mean? Like it is like kind of what I was describing with Metroid Prime, where they just took that into account with the level design. It didn't have too many like spaces where you can sort of turn left and right and go off onto a weird corridor. It's mostly just tunnels that it's leading you through. But what they did is sort of present the door number like 1, 2, 3 tunnel. You know what I mean? Like they've got little things that you can pop off to the side, but very rarely do they kind of make you sidestep ever to get to those. It's all very clear in front of you. So yeah, I don't know. I think Yeah, I'd be hard pressed to think of a game where I would say, "Oh, it should be point and click," or you should take WASD out of this game. But it is surprising thinking about it how little it bothers me at times.
Yeah.
I suppose you'd probably be pretty heavily criticized at this point if you made a game
I was just
that
thinking
would have WASD that should have WASD and just doesn't by default. I think people would lose their minds.
Yeah.
But
I know. Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of decisions at this point are made for the core audience that you don't want to lose their minds on a Steam
by
forum.
The unquestioned assumptions. Like sometimes you're not questioning them because you kind of can't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's definitely a thing. Yeah. Which probably people don't think about. Yeah.
And that just means that you end up designing the rest of the game around that, at least hopefully.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Like, I mean, WASD plus mouse look or dual analog stick controls for first-person shooters is a really great control scheme. So, like, it's not as though I think we're sort of leaving huge amounts on the table by not using wacky tank controls. But it is interesting to think about this stuff and be like, oh, okay, what am I getting out of this control scheme and what am I not? And, like, how does that tie into the way that we're doing level design and world design and everything?
I think The Witness is an interesting example because it feels like the kind of game where you probably could have done something really bold like that and gotten away with it because it is just itself. It just feels like a singular game, and it doesn't feel like it's designed for as a shooter. Even just stripping away like what it is, just looking at a screenshot, nobody would look at that and say like, "Oh, I'm expecting WASD." I mean, they kind of would.
I think they would. They wouldn't realize they're expecting it, but they would. But they still would be because that's just how they think of first-person games.
They would expect it, but I think
listening to this podcast anyway,
right? But I think if they had gone with a default control method that just was really good, but not that, I think it would have been fine in that.
I don't think it would have been fine. I think people would have flipped out. Yeah.
Well, I think if they'd had WAS support, but if they just said,
if you got an option,
that
would be cool. If you hadn't, because in that game there's no. I mean, apparently there are timed things, but I haven't really gotten to them yet, so I don't know. But for the most part, at least in all the stuff I've played so far, it's all take it at your own pace.
Yeah.
And so you could conceivably just do whichever you were more comfortable with as a player.
Yeah. Anyway.
Man, by the way, The Witness, I have not played it because I've been playing XCOM and because like I said, I haven't even had enough time to play as much XCOM as I would want to.
Right.
And so The Witness is just this like looming thing still in my brain where I know that if I went back to it now, just because of the way this game is for me and for seemingly everyone, the way it works is that things you were stuck on, you will be less stuck on when you go back to them.
Yep.
But like, I need more time to play all the games.
The Witness witnesses you playing silly, throwaway games and judges you is what it does. That is where The Witness is derived from.
I'm also getting married in a couple weeks, and then we're going on a honeymoon, and then we're also in between those two things. We're moving to a new apartment,
right?
And like other stuff is going, just like other things are going on. Like I don't know when I want to play these games. It's so frustrating because there have been periods over the last few months where I've felt like it's been a real dead time, at least for stuff that I was super personally interested in. Mm-hmm. And now I feel like there are so many games. Like I want to play more Rise of the Tomb Raider because someone, after I talked about it, last week, I guess, someone contacted Idle Thumbs or me, I can't even remember, to say, oh, there's a challenge mode where you're just in, all those systems I was describing where you're in this kind of pseudo open world and there's crafting and there's experience and there's, limited resources and so on. You just have that and you just have to survive as long as you can. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what? I totally want to play that. There's so much stuff I want to play right now. It's driving me nuts. Yeah. And I'm at like the lowest point in my available time.
It seems like that that's always the case.
Yeah, I know.
It's just whenever a game or a couple of games come out that you've just been waiting for, it's always just syncs up with your life being crazy.
Yep.
Yeah. That happened to me last year, and I can't remember exactly what games it was.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, do one more, I guess?
Sure.
So, Echo Null writes, Hi Thumbs, last week you discussed how the new XCOM felt like it assumed a lot of knowledge of its audience, and the difficulty in handling both a new audience and series adherence with the same game. I found this was handled distinctively well in the recent Monster Hunter games. The series features both equipment-based progression and a significant skill element in the same vein as Dark Souls, where knowing how to dodge and when to strike is something the player earns over time. Since the player's character only improves through equipment, an experienced player can speed through the early game with a suboptimal weapon and starting armor, focusing on offense until they're challenged again. A newer player would have to replay A newer player would have to retry hunts, possibly cutting out early with only some of the rewards, but that allows them to shore up gaps in their skill with the equipment they can now craft, making it easier to try again. I haven't seen this dynamic play out quite this well anywhere else. Thanks for the great episodes over the years, and keep casting the good pods. Echo Null.
It's cool.
Yeah. That's a great dynamic, the sort of player skill versus...
yeah.
I mean, The Witness is like entirely... I mean, The Witness is an extreme example of... Skill is a weird way to put it. It's more like...
ability,
learning. It's like
something. Yeah, it's hard to
learning
describe, yeah.
sort of rules or ways of
thinking
thinking.
machine, learning computer. Yeah.
But it is entirely that. Like it feel like I think a lot of people wouldn't want to describe it that way because they're puzzles as opposed to sort of challenges. But I think it actually is fair to say that you are kind of learning these skills because a combat system isn't really any less insular to itself than a string of puzzles is, as long as the puzzles are actually based on a comprehensible set of rules as opposed to just sort of an adventure game, like arbitrarily combined.
Yeah, just a completely wacky thing. Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, in The Witness, it just does a really good job of, layering different puzzle types on top of each other until, you just feel like, oh, I recognize this piece of this, you know? Yeah. It more or less is just a learned skill. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And
I think this reader is correct that the Dark Souls games are amazing at this. I mean, they're incredible at making you rise to the occasion and really learn the game on its terms and just bring that just learn to bring it consistently in a way you never would have thought when you first start the game or one of like the first time you started any of the games in the series, like the first one that you played. Yeah. And you're like, well, this is just impossible.
Yep.
It's unfair and impossible. And then you realize, nope, I just have to be good at it.
Yeah, that seems like a common thread in kind of all the stuff we've been talking about in the last couple of weeks, but just, games, that just seems like the popular thing right now is to just
which is crazy. How is that the popular thing?
It's really weird. I don't know.
I mean, it's at least a popular thing.
I guess it's just that, to me at least, it feels like these games are now being designed with a more, with a higher level of care in terms of the early game of them, where it feels like the gradation of difficulty, there's more thought put into the way a player is going to react to certain things so that it doesn't...
But that's why XCOM 2 is so crazy, because it's not like that.
I know. XCOM 2 feels like just...
It is so old school in that way.
Yeah, it's really, really old school. That's exactly what it feels like. Yeah. I can't account for that game. Yeah. It is really... I don't know. Being a person that played through the end of XCOM many times, I don't understand how... the fact that I bounced off of that game in the first day is... nuts. Yeah.
But that's what I mean, right? It's like when it's old school from the era when you didn't have 20 other games to bounce to that you got for $2 in a Steam sale. So,
right.
You know what I mean? Like XCOM,
it was just
XCOM is still is like is a remnant of, or possibly like throwback to an era when it's like you played the original XCOM in 1993 and that was like one of two games that you had, and it didn't occur to you that this was like too hard and you're going to move on. Right. It's like, this is just what it is. It is what it is, and it's right here, and like I am going to lose and lose and lose and lose, but like what else am I going to do? You don't even think what else am I going to do, because it wouldn't even, like there's no reason to even think about it. Like, it's just what you're doing. Yeah, it's weird. But of course XCOM 2 can't be that because it's sitting on the Steam bestseller list, like right below Dark Souls, which is going to come out. Also, another game that's going to come out and make me not have enough time to play anything.
Thanks, games.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Strange time we're in. It's cool, though. I mean, like...
It is cool.
I'm glad that this stuff all exists, on top of, like, games that are the furthest from that you could get at the same time are also being successful. It's crazy.
Yeah,
it's actually nice.
It's not at all what I would have predicted 5 years ago.
No way.
For the trajectory of where PC gaming is going to go.
Darker.
Oh yeah,
or just gaming in general, because most of these
felt like
games
everything was going to get perfectly smoothed
a bunch
out.
Of platforms.
I just assumed that the sort of design ethic of like, man, poll 100 players, and if watch a billion playthroughs, and if they get stuck here, or if they die here, then we're just going to smooth everything out and make sure that they get through the game. And that felt like the future 5 years ago to me. And it just seems like people have just like railed against that. I think also there's been enough of a response to specific games like Demon Souls to justify going in the opposite direction. And also there's just so many games now, it kind of feels like you have to in some ways. It sort of feels like that niche just has to be filled because there's so many games that you have to do something different to stand out. And this seems like one of the things you can do is just make your game really fucking hard. And it just inherently feels different than a lot of the sort of...
But like thoughtfully hard.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember when Demon's Souls came out, the original one, and I weirdly, I know this is not typical, but that game came out on PS3, and I've still played more of Demon's Souls than I've played of any other Souls.
I remember when you got into that, yeah.
Yeah, I was super into it. I really liked that game a lot. And I remember at the time it felt to me like a throwback to a certain kind of like PS1, early PS2 Japanese design ethic that I thought was really awesome, like really great. And not just design ethic, but also visual aesthetic. Just that game felt like a throwback to this very particular slice. But now, in like context, years later, it feels like a larger kind of trend towards just a generally kind of to a larger trend that encompasses not just that like particular like Japanese design ethic, but like this larger thing that is pulling back to all kinds of eras of all different like game design cultures from a time when this kind of like you have to rise to the game's level was expected.
It's just got to be a generational thing, right? Like the people that were playing those games when they were kids got to a point in where they had careers in the game industry and decided like, I'm going to do this thing now, but also and I'm going to ignore the evolution that was sort of like being followed by a different generation, right?
But I think that's all. I think that is coinciding with the coming of age of a generation that is like raised on stuff like Minecraft. Yeah, and Minecraft is not like Dark Souls or XCOM in the sense. I mean, it's not a punishing single player campaign, but I think it is. I think the line you draw is the people who come up on games like that are willing to play something that asks a lot of them.
Yeah, demands a lot of them. Exactly.
In a different way, obviously, but the rise of the sort of brutal survival game, DayZ, Don't Starve, etc. Like that all feels like, I think that all feels like a combined movement in a way that's really crazy.
Yeah. I think you're totally right. I think it's just, a generation of gamers now that just feel like they want to poke around in games and find their own kind of, facet of it that's enjoyable, which is really cool. Like, I'm glad that happened. Because otherwise, we would have just been playing AAA nonsense forever and ever and ever. Like the Xbox 360, like early Xbox 360 era of games, hopefully will just feel like a weird. Oh my god, I can remember when you and I were game journalists.
I know.
Oof. Like that felt like the peak of that stuff.
Yeah.
And now it's better. Yeah. Thankfully.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool.
Anyway. Yeah.
On that hopeful note.
Yeah.
I guess we can wrap this up. So this episode of Idle Thumbs was brought to you by Postmates, the courier service that will bring you goods and foods from anywhere in your city, all kinds of businesses, straight to your door, your home or office, wherever you want. If you download the Postmates app on iOS or Android and use the code THUMBS, your first delivery will be free.
Nice.
Yeah.
You're going to do that whiz?
I'm going to get that whiz.
Momentarily, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep. Thank you for listening to Idle Thumbs. If you enjoy this show, please, please, please tell a friend. We have very few methods to grow the audience of this show available to us, but the biggest one is simply people passing it among their own communities, the forum communities, social media communities, places where there might be other people who would appreciate the sort of combination of stuff that we do on the show. It means a lot to us. You can find us on Twitter @IdleThumbs. You can send us email to be read and possibly also read on the show to questions@idlethumbs.net. We're on Facebook as well, facebook.com/idlethumbs. We host a bunch of other podcasts on our website, idlethumbs.net, including Idle Weekend, which I mentioned earlier, which is co-hosted by Danielle Riendo, formerly of this show, and Rob Zachney, who also hosts 3 Moves Ahead and Esports Today on our network. They're really smart and have a great rapport, and it's a great show. And we also just relaunched the Idle Book Club, which I am co-hosting with Sarah Argadale. We just put out our first kind of full episode of this new season, which is about Fates and Furies by Lauren Groff. That came out about a week ago. And our next book that we're reading for March is Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro, the author of The Remains of the Day, which is a really, really great novel. I have not read Never Let Me Go, so I'm reading it for the first time.
Have you seen the movie?
I have not seen the movie. Have you?
I have, yeah.
Well, I'm hoping to watch it before we record the episode.
Yeah, you should.
Just for more context.
Yeah.
All right. So you can find that at idlethumbs.net/shows, along with all the rest of our shows. And yeah, thank you for listening.
Thanks.
Thanks.